Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is The Housewife Did It.
Pop Culture Edition. If you like our show, we would love for you to tell the people you love about it. You can follow us or subscribe to us on podcast platforms and YouTube and give us a hopefully 5-star review. That makes it easier for other people to find our show when they search us.
Yeah.
We had a
Alrighty.
TikTok. Oh, sorry, I was going to. We had a TikTok get pretty popular that I posted today. It has over 2,000 views and over 150 likes.
Wow. Nice.
So hopefully those people will come.
Yeah. If you're from TikTok, welcome.
Yeah.
If you're from anywhere, welcome. But
No.
no.
Only just kidding.
TikTok
Um
exclusive.
all right.
Alrighty. So we have a few of our kind of regular Bravo and Bachelor
Mhm.
things. But this week, mostly, Mary is going to give a deep dive into the new docuseries about life at Nickelodeon for child actors in the 90s and 2000s, which I'm sure you've heard of by this point. So, yeah, woo woo. It's time
Mhm.
for that. So, to start, this is not the most interesting thing, but the kind of tea
Mhm.
that's coming from it is interesting. Anna Marie, who was not super relevant on Beverly Hills, has announced on Instagram that she has not been asked to return uh to the show. So this was the first season she was on, but she is not happy about it. And she posted this on Instagram. She said, I just got word today that I will not be returning to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. To say that I'm disappointed is an understatement. I never auditioned for this show. The show found me and asked me to be on it out of the blue 6 weeks after the cast had already started filming. I was thrown into filming 2 weeks later, which, okay. I was like 2 weeks into filming. You just said six, but okay. 2 weeks after that, mid season. I was very excited about the opportunity, and I thought following exactly what I was instructed to do throughout filming was the way the game was played. Listening to what I was instructed to do was my rookie mistake. What I am disappointed about is that the fans never got to see the real me or even a glimpse into my unique life story. Contrary to what was shown on TV, I am not obsessed with the esophagus. What I am is a woman, a proud Black woman, who is truly blessed with a strong Black man as my husband, who lifts me and our four wonderful children up with so much love and positivity on a daily. It was an important mission of mine to show a solid Black family unit and that true Black love exists, even in Beverly Hills. My struggle with losing my mom to lung cancer within weeks of taping, and my struggle with adoption trauma and what was going to be a new life journey to find my biological parents, all of which was taped but never shown last season, among other things. End quote. So, yeah, Anna Marie's storyline on the show is basically Sutton says she can't swallow X foods because of her esophagus, and Anna Marie
What's
keeps
wrong with her?
questioning.
Oh,
She
Sutton's
just,
assault. Okay.
yes. So then Anna Marie keeps questioning, like, what is wrong with your esophagus? Like, do you have a diagnosis?
Yeah.
Like, Anna Marie, I think, is a doctor, or her husband's a doctor, or they're both in the medical field in some way. And so she's like, I am just wondering, like, what is going on? And Sutton's like, my whole family is like this. And she was like, I think maybe at first a little concerned that there was like an eating disorder going on.
Yeah.
And she was just kind of asking other people, like, what's the deal with Sutton's esophagus? And yeah, I mean, that kind of became her entire role on the show. And then because of that, like, everyone thought she was super boring, no one liked her. And I guess the point that she's making is like that is editing, that she did tell her story, they just didn't show it.
Yeah.
um
That's crazy
and
that they asked her on like halfway through the show though.
Oh, well, I had noticed that she came on halfway through the season, but she was like someone's friend. So then I thought like she's just going to be a friend. And then I was like, wait a second, she has been in the promo, like the intro, the entire time. So like she had like a I'm Anna Marie, like a tagline, even for
Mhm.
episodes that she wasn't in at all.
That's
And so it's
crazy.
like, how fucking weird. And like,
Yeah.
it's true, they like set you up for failure. So like, how annoying is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Um, I was watching Summer House just now. I didn't have any tidbits about Summer House, but I did wanna say, I think now we're also getting to see how Carl's loved ones are, like, playing into
Mhm.
what's going to happen with him and Lindsay, because like, his mom and his stepdad were, asking him so many questions, like, "Where is Lindsay? Is she gonna be okay with what y'all are doing? Why are y'all fighting? How have you been?" And, like, I feel like and then we see, like, Sierra have a similar conversation with him, and a lot of people have at this point. And so I feel like we're getting to see like more and more, even though in this episode they were getting along better. I didn't
Mhm.
finish it. They were getting along better, at least for like the camping thing. Um, but I think we're also seeing that it's not just how he's feeling, but like people are worried about him
Yes.
and this potential marriage. So
Yeah. Yeah.
not super tea this week, but like
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
The only part I'm guessing noteworthy that you missed kind of is that we like start the next weekend and everyone's like, "Where's Carl?" Because he didn't come up Friday night, and Lindsay was like, "There's a prop that we're waiting to be delivered for the theme
Yes.
party."
Yeah, I've gotten to that part, but that's where I stopped watching, was, like, when they're
Well,
looking for the thing.
then everyone else said that's not why he's not here. And it flashed back to that conversation with Sierra and him and Jesse and West after Soul Cycle. And he said to them, I'm not going to come next Friday because we fight every Friday night and I want to break the Friday night curse. So I'm going to wait and come up Saturday. And so I don't know if like Lindsay isn't aware of that or if she's doing what we know her to do and she's just
Right.
trying to like act like things are fine. Um, or if
That's
he just
sad.
totally didn't tell her that and he made up an excuse to stay back. But yeah,
Sad.
yeah.
Okay. Um, today so much happened in the news today specifically.
Mhm.
Um, and this I also feel sad because I'm like, we railed this fucking woman into
Mhm.
doing something she really did not want to do. But
Mhm.
Kate Middleton released a video today where she revealed that the reason she has been out of the public eye is because she has been undergoing chemo after her abdominal surgery. So she said she went into the abdominal surgery and they were like, it's a non-cancerous condition. This abdominal surgery is going to fix everything. She said the surgery was successful, but while they were in there, they realized that she does in fact have cancer. They have not revealed like the type of cancer yet or any details, just that since that surgery, she has been undergoing chemo, which, as everyone knows, would have a toll on your physical appearance.
She's yeah,
Um,
very thin.
she's very thin, and I'm assuming she's wearing a wig in the picture. Because isn't
I
chemo
don't
what
know.
causes you to lose the hair specifically?
Yeah, I mean it may not immediately though. So depending on
Yeah,
how long she's been, it looked like her hair, but maybe it
yeah.
is a wig. I
But
don't know.
she looks very thin. She looks pale. Like it didn't look like she was wearing makeup even
Right.
in the picture. And so I think one, it has a toll on you physically, like like weakness and how she's feeling, but then also people would likely be able to see that there
Right.
was something different about her. So on one hand, it's like good to know that she's alive
Mhm.
and she's doing what she has to do and everything. But like on the other hand, we as a planet bullied this woman into revealing something very personal about herself
Mhm.
that she, if she was not who she was, could have kept private
Yeah.
if that's the journey she wanted for herself. And
Yeah.
I think that like um think I don't know, I feel like I understand, like, people are like, "No, like, I want to be very clear that she today is alive." But, like, I feel like posting an old picture and being like, "I'm good," is, like, the best she could do without revealing too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, it was sad because she said she wasn't ready to tell her children,
Mhm.
and essentially she was forced to. Uh, I don't know. I go back and forth with like she still like could have like posted the photo or a video and just said I'm okay and not said like what the problem was,
Mhm.
and that would have at least stopped like the speculation that like putting out a bunch of fake photos was obviously
Yeah.
going to start like more speculation. But I agree that like if we had seen her the way she looks today and she said I'm fine, we would have all been like, oh, why are you so thin, and like why,
Yeah.
like even that video of them like at the market, everyone was like, that's not her, like look how thin she is. So I don't, like that would have maybe caused even, maybe they thought
Mhm.
like if we release anything now and she looks ill, then it's going to cause more questions. But then they
Yeah.
finally reached a point this week where they were like, no, like we have to say something.
Yeah.
So sad.
Sorry.
Sorry, Kate.
Our bad. I think I said last week, one of my, admin at my school, she, like, jokes that she's a member of the royal family, and so I sent, like, a group chat to her, I messaged her and, like, added her in the group chat, and I said, "Where is Kate Middleton?" And today, every single person I work with has been texting me individually to let me know that Kate Middleton has cancer. I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really care where Kate Middleton was. I just wanted to make the joke
Mhm.
because of her interest in the royal family." But now everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Mary, like, I'm so
Mary is
sorry."
so concerned.
They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, your precious Kate Middleton, she has cancer." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's really sad." I don't particularly care for the royal family.
Like
So,
it's not something that like year round we're like invested in.
right,
Just like
right.
right now it's been interesting, yeah. On to Women Tell All. Pretty brief
Mhm.
for The Bachelor.
'Cause we stayed
But
on one topic pretty much the whole time.
yeah. But I was shocked to hear
Mhm.
that Rachel had received a lot of hate comments, particularly some pretty bad racist comments following
Mhm.
her hometown date. When people got to see her family and like the parts of her culture that we had talked about as like the coolest part of her hometown date.
Mhm.
On like the surface, like can I just say, like, did it take her hometown date for people to realize that she was Asian?
Right, well, and she said, like,
Like, I'm
people
like,
even afterwards are messaging her and calling her the N-word, and I'm like, "Horrible to be called the N-word regardless, but also this person is not Black."
uh-huh. And it's not
Like,
like you got to her hometowns and like her dad is black, or like you
right,
found out, we didn't find out anything else about her
right.
heritage on the hometowns that we didn't already know. So like unless people, well, I think some of it was they were saying it was like the hand thing was like weird, or like
Mhm.
maybe it just like made people think her culture was like strange.
Mhm.
But it just seems like if you have like racist thoughts about someone who's like Filipino or Hawaiian, that like you would have had them before that point. But
Mhm.
um whatever, I guess. So that was awful. She also said it was upsetting because people made a lot of TikToks of themselves
Mhm.
pretending to throw up when watching her and Joey kiss, which does like obviously suck. And I think like we talked about that, like clearly like they had more of a connection than like the show's
Yeah.
editing led people to believe. So not that the show, it's the show's fault that people bullied her, but I think like people did think like their relationship was really awkward because we didn't,
Yeah.
not us particularly, but because
Yeah, I don't think anyone
people didn't see
expected
a lot.
it. Yeah, I don't think anyone expected it to progress and, like, for her to get as far as she did based on the
Yeah,
connection we saw, and so, like, it's one thing to be, like, surprised that she made it as far as she did, but, like, uh,
it's another to be an asshole.
yeah.
Mhm. It was, though, very nice to see the, like, banter and how much freaking fun her and Joey had.
Mhm.
Like, people were, like, posting afterwards, and they were like, "Wait, Rachel's hilarious."
Yeah. He was like, "Obviously, Rachel and Maria made me laugh the most," and I was like, "If we're, like, Rachel's as funny as Maria, why
Yeah.
did we not get to see it?"
It was just, like, so funny and so casually funny when they were both like, "That was so fun to watch." "Oh, yeah, that was so fun." And I was just
Yeah.
like, they're
When she
so
did the
comfortable with
impression
each
of
other.
him, I was
Yeah.
like, "This should have been aired. This is the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen because she's so right." And
Yeah.
it's the fact that, like, that she did it and they all said, "Oh my god, are you him with a rose?" Like,
Yeah.
because that's how spot on she was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love yeah, I love watching them together because I was like, "Damn, I kinda like them together now,
Mhm.
now that I know."
Mhm.
But I do think that, like, when I was watching it and, like, we got to the part where Jesse's, like, making eye contact with the camera and Joey's, like, denouncing racism, um, great
Awesome.
scene, you know? But I part of me was like, "This is, like, great," because I feel like we talk about stuff like this on The Bachelor, but I don't feel like we've ever had a lead be like, I like, you're a fan of our show. You're watching my love story and, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Mhm.
And so I was like, "Oh, this is going to be good. Like, this is
Mhm.
going to be powerful. People are going to feel ashamed of themselves and they need it." Like, great.
Mhm.
But I feel like it kind of stopped at, like, that it's so sad that
Mhm.
she's put up with this. And I would have loved for Joey to, like, look in the camera and be like, "You should be embarrassed. You're
Mhm.
disgusting. Like, if
Mhm.
you're messaging her, you're a bad person." And, like, I just would love for them to have taken it too far almost and,
Yeah.
like, really made those people feel like assholes and made them feel, like, embarrassed to be watching the TV and know that they're talking about them because, like, these are
Yeah.
people who watch the show, obviously. And so I just, like, I was like, "Yeah, like, great that, like, the 2 people who these the 2 that these people probably care the most opinion-wise are saying something to them directly, but, like, I would love for you to, like, rail them."
Mhm. Yeah, it was, like, watered down,
Mhm.
and, like, I Jesse being like, "Bachelor Nation, we love to hear your opinions." Shut the fuck up.
You
Like, what
don't.
he should have said, like, these opinions are not welcome here.
Right.
And they should have said, like, you you should not, like, yes, Joey should have said, like, "You should not be watching my love story if you can't love the people that I loved," or like,
Right.
You can fuck off, basically.
Right.
You're
Like I just
disgusting."
said, I will always have love in my heart for her
Yes.
because, like, I do, like, and, like, that she's so funny, that we get along so well, we're friends first.
Mhm.
Like, if you're messaging my friend and
Mhm.
saying this shit to them, like, I don't like you.
I don't need your fandom.
Right.
I don't need you. Yeah. It was also like not that, like, I understand that, like, Sydney was bullied online and, like, other people had really awful things said to them online, but I felt like Rachel's was like a different conversation. And then
Mhm.
Jesse, like, turns to the other women and is like, "Everyone raise your hand if you've gotten hate comments." And it, like, again kind of like watered
Yeah.
down Rachel's experience, that, like,
Right.
she's not getting, like, typical
Right.
hate
Like,
comments.
yes, we've all
She
been
is getting,
personally victimized by
right,
Regina George, but, like, this person has been hate crimed by Regina George,
right,
like, different.
yeah. So, like, asking Sydney, who is receiving hate for her actions,
Right.
and, like, certainly shouldn't reach a certain level, but, like,
Right.
asking Sydney to be, like, on the same level as Rachel,
Right.
who just, like, lived her life with her family
Right.
and got hate crimed. Like, it just felt like The Bachelor doing the the polite, like,
Mhm.
woke thing that they think they're
Right.
supposed to do, and
I've
yeah, it was
always,
not
like,
great.
um, I've always said, and I think having a podcast, I've not changed my opinion on this, but I've always, like, when I listen to podcasts and there is, like, something, like an elephant in the room on, like, some kind of social justice issue, and they're, like, beating around the bush on it, or they're like, we don't want to get political here, like, we don't need to share our political opinions here. I'm like, no, like, if I had a podcast, I would straight up, like, I don't care if
Mhm,
you don't like my political opinions, don't listen to me.
mhm.
If you are a racist person, I don't want you following my show.
Goodbye.
I don't. Right, like, if you believe in these things that I find, like, fundamentally morally
Repugnant.
right, I don't want you to listen to my show. I
I
don't, like,
hope
if
that
you
I hope
literally
that,
if
like, seeping through the show, you hate it. Like,
right,
that is how I will know that, like, I am doing okay as a human
right, like,
person.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Um, I just, like, and, like, I feel like, there are certain things that, like, I have always said, like, there are certain beliefs that I have that, like, if other people believe differently on certain things, like, okay, like, we can disagree and you're not a bad person and I'm not a bad person. But if you're messaging a woman and calling her a jungle Asian simply because she's Filipino, you are a bad person and I don't want you anywhere near me.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think she was funny about it, but I don't know if they're in, like, some sort of, like, conjunction with the racist comments, but I think she's also gotten a lot of people commenting on her bun, like the fact that her hair is always in a bun.
Mhm.
So she has, like, posted Instagram reels of, like, her putting her hair in a bun, and she said, "Because it's iconic, and I love to do iconic things." Um,
I
because,
just
like,
love
fuck
her.
off. And I
Yeah.
think that, like, a lot of, in general, like, what made her not the most, like, exciting person to watch is, like, she was, like, never wearing, like, a bunch of makeup. She was never, like, her hair was in a bun a lot, and, like, she was just there to date Joey. And,
Right.
like, that doesn't work for TV.
Right.
And,
She
like,
wasn't
yeah,
in the
I think,
drama.
yeah,
She didn't
such
I
a
don't think she
sweetie
like
girl.
I know. I don't it didn't feel like she felt really strongly either way about Maria or Sydney. Like, she didn't pick sides and get involved in stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, so then what the main focus was of the 2 hours
mhm,
was a lot of back and forth between Leia, Jess, and Sydney, and Maria and everyone else.
mhm.
Maria proved once again to be the bigger person. She made up with all of the girls that shit on her for an entire season. She hugged them, and she specifically asked for Bachelor Nation to lay off, to stop being mean to them online, to, like, I'm gonna forgive them. Everyone else, please
Yeah.
do the same. And
I,
it's cute.
when Sydney was like, "No, you did say those things to me, but I also, like, I do see how I, like, took it too far." I'm like, "She stop. She didn't say those things. Fucking drop it." Like,
Hmm.
we've, like, established
Hmm.
at this point, we had already established that she hadn't said those things.
Well, one of them, but she's standing by that, like, Maria called her weird, or, like,
She
whatever.
was she I don't know
Girl,
Maria. I didn't see
you
Maria call
were
her weird, but
weird.
girl, you were fucking weird. You were blaming
Weird.
Maria for you being lethargic. Like
Yeah.
weird in, like, the sense of, like, you're so weird and obsessed. Like the way people
Yeah.
say weird now. Yeah, you were weird.
It was weird. Uh Yeah, I could not imagine someone looking me in my face and being like, "No, everything I said about you, I stand by, but let's be good." And me being like, "Sure." And so like, good for fucking Maria that she was like, "Yes," like. And then I even saw an interview of her after where she was like, "If we could have just done that on the show, like it would have been so much better. Like, do you see how fast we solved everything?" And I'm like, "But girl, it was all you. Like,
Yeah.
because you were gracious. Like,
And the thing is,
they
I
did
think
not
that
change their
Maria,
behavior, except
right.
Leia did, I think.
Yeah, I think Leia felt really bad. I feel like Maria at this point can afford to be more gracious because she got the whole fucking world on her side. And these girls are like, no, at this point, I have to prove that I was right. Otherwise, I am, in fact, a crazy person.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, it probably
and
looks good to be Bachelorette, to be really gracious.
yeah, but so I feel like Maria can be like, you know what, like let's just let this shit go. Cause like she
Hmm.
knows she's right, and the whole fucking
It's
world
on
agrees
TV.
with her.
Yeah.
Medina agrees.
Yeah.
That's what this all started from. And
Yeah.
Medina was like, Sydney, you were batshit crazy.
Yeah.
That's
So
embarrassing.
Leia caught backlash specifically for continuously saying that she's a girl's girl. In fact, the women said, like, we're not mad that you threw the date steal card in the fire. I think it's fine. Maybe I would have kept it, but like, yeah, that's great. You didn't want to, whatever. But the tears, they were a little too much. And you did not need to act like you did it as like a favor to us. Like to do it for the women. Like, fuck off. Uh then in maybe the twist of the night, Lauren, one of the two sisters, pipes up and confirms that Maria did not ever tell Leia to shut the fuck up because she is the one that said it.
What killed me was the fact that she had been gone for 2 weeks
Uh
at the
huh.
point that that got brought up. So she said like she said I had been gone for 2 weeks. So it had been at least 2 weeks since she told Leia to shut the fuck up that it was
And they're
getting brought
still
up,
talking about it,
and that they're blaming it on Maria.
which is like,
That's
you
crazy.
just think all the girls with black hair look the same?
I will say
Girls have
when I
mint
was
hair.
watching Women Tell All, and I was like, I feel like Maria could be a third sister for Lauren and Allison.
Maybe a little bit. All right. We had the double feature Vanderpump Rules and the Valley. It
Mm-hmm.
was not the most exciting night of my life, though I wish it happened. Uh, on her podcast, I'll just start here. Rachel this week has confirmed who from the friend group knew about the affair the whole time. So she says, obviously Schwartz. We knew that. She says Kyle Chan knew the whole time. She did say some stuff that I don't really get, but we haven't watched the whole season, I guess. But she said, I don't get how Schwartz has been completely, which isn't true. She said, like, has been completely pushed out of the group for knowing, but Kyle Chan is still fully involved in the group, which I don't think is true.
Is Kyle Chan a cast member?
Also the only time we see Kyle Chan, he's at like Tom's parties with Billy
Right.
Lee where no one else wants to be. So like I
Right.
don't
And I put in here later on something about Kyle Chan to kind of like point out that he is only friends with Sandoval.
right. Right. So I don't really know what she meant. And obviously Schwartz has kind of been accepted back in. So I was like, I don't really
Hmm.
get that. Jason, the drummer slash band manager, knew the whole time. Max, whatever his Bolins or something
Hmm.
from the prior Vanderpump Rules seasons, knew. She says with Max that like she doesn't know if he was ever told, but that like her and Tom used to go to like a bar with Max frequently, and she was like, it would have been very obvious that we were together. Uh, and then she alleges that one time at Tom and Ariana's house, because they were reckless, and she's so embarrassed to say this, but her and Tom went into the social media room at Tom and Ariana's house while they were having a party So she says they went into this social media room in Tom and Ariana's house while they were having a party, and they were cuddling on the floor when Ariana's best friend Logan walked in and said, "Oh," and then walked back out. Well, I guess she said that he walked in and said like, "Oh, I'm so fucked up," and then walked out. Uh, but she says, "So I am sure that it got back to Ariana." And I'm like, "Are we doing this again?" The whole like Ariana definitely knew. She must have turned a blind eye. Like we're back to the victim blaming.
I also think that, like, as much as I would not like my husband cuddling with someone, I feel like that's still not like a sure fire, like they're having an affair, especially
Especially if
when we
Logan
think
was fucked
about,
up.
well, and especially if we think about Sheena's claim that she would trust Rachel and Brock in the same bed. Like, this is kind of what these people do.
Right.
Like, they're all skinny dipping together in Mexico. Like, this is like kind of like
So if
normal
it's a
behavior for
party,
them.
yeah, where everyone's drunk, like it might not be that weird that they like ended up on the floor cuddling. It's not even like they're like under covers or like,
Right.
it's kind of the most innocuous place to be cuddling, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, that was it was also like weird. She was like, "I'm just sick of protecting these people." And that's fine to say like I'm not going to continue to like lie and say these people didn't know. But then she was like, "I think that it's time uh for us." She was basically just saying that like I think it's good for everyone to just own up to what they know, and I think it's time to like let it off our chest. And while that is fine, like it feels like maybe that's not her decision to make for other people. And
Mhm.
like, cool, I'm here for her spilling the tea, but like don't act like you're doing it for some like therapeutic reason, because
Right.
if it's about getting it off your own chest, that's not what happened. You ratted them out, which is like
Right.
cool, but like she acts like everything is from like this mental health perspective that like
She
I think
only
everyone should be ready to own it. Okay, but they're not.
she only has room in her brain for like one basis for things. So, like, when she first got on Vanderpump Rules, she only had pageant girl brain.
Mhm.
And then she kicked that out and she made room for DJ girlfriend brain. And then single girl brain was last season, and now she has mental health brain because that's
Mhm.
where she's at now. Like, it's like she thinks in like one mode
Mhm.
at all times, and like her personality has just changed so much since we've been introduced to her, which is like people grow and change, but like it's like there's no remnants of what she used to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Uh Ariana, so I guess into the episode. Ariana and Sheena have a conversation. They talk about the rumblings that Sheena is mad at Ariana, specifically about Dancing with the Stars. They cut to a scene where to Lisa, Ariana said, "So she wanted me to break my NDA and tell her?" But then when we're talking to Sheena, she does not say that to Sheena. So that
But
was a little
also,
disappointing.
did she break her NDA and tell Dan? Because that's where Sheena heard it from.
Probably. But
So why are we like, you know?
yeah, I mean, I don't know how the NDA works, but like I think it's like different to tell the person you're like living, like she's like in New York with him. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but also, yes, it is true though that like if you do break your NDA and tell your boyfriend, he better not break your NDA and tell your friends. Um, but yeah, people were like annoyed because they were like, Lisa literally would have had to sign the same NDA. Like, why is she giving her a hard time and not telling Sheena? Like, well, I do know, like, she can't tell you
Right.
or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you're right that, like, if it was that big a deal that no one could know, then Dan should have at least been sworn to secrecy.
Yeah.
But Sheena asks, so painful. She asks Ariana if 4 to 5 years down the road, she decided Sandoval's really done all this work and he's changed and she wanted to be his friend again, how Ariana would feel. Ariana tells her, I would give you the side eye, not in a judgy way, but side eye like you're in danger, girl. Um, tell her I would be pissed.
Yeah.
Tell her that. Uh, but Ariana in her confessional immediately pegs this and she says, I think Sheena has already made the decision that she is going to be friends with Tom again. And she is hoping that this will soften the blow.
That is
She is
exactly.
correct.
Yeah. And I just like I genuinely cannot wrap my head around what this man has to offer as a friend. Like I know that like I don't know him, but just like watching this show, watching him like interact with people that he is friends with, like it seems
Yeah.
painful to be friends with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I'll add something. We can also cut this if you think. But Billy asked me, like, when we were watching, he was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but like, how does someone like Tom have so many queer friends? Like, why is
The person
this
who
the
said
population of
cisgender,
people? Huh?
the person who said cisgender.
Yeah. How does this population of people like not see through him and like not like yeah, it's like this is a man who for years has said that this is unfair because I'm a man. He does. He
Mhm.
says cisgender on TV. He like whatever, and it's just like so strange to me that these people like that Tom is like who they think is like a great ally or friend, like in general. And I
Mhm.
think, yeah, it's hard for me to understand like what he brings to any friendships ever.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. Like I don't
Like
know,
your
like
best friend is Billy Lee and you don't know the term cisgender?
right. And then it's like, or all of his friendships, not just the queer ones, but like all of his friendships, is there money involved? Like the way Sheena is. Is there or Kristen Doty too? Like are people not talking about it, but he's paid them or he's thrown them parties or he has like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know
Yeah.
what it is that these people are so any of them, Schwartz,
Yeah.
even the after show, just a spoiler, Jax is like, I would never throw away a friendship that I've had for this long. Like I've forgiven Tom. Like I would never throw this away. And it's like, why?
Right.
Why not? Why
And
will
like
no
what I
one
think is
throw
so
away this
crazy,
friendship?
yeah, what I think is so crazy about the Jax thing is like when we watch the end of the episode when Jax comes in and Tom was like didn't even want to like look at him. I was
Mhm.
like, you have been trying so fucking hard to convince everyone that you have changed in the past 4 months since your affair broke.
Mhm.
Like that is your whole storyline right now. But
Uh-huh.
like in the years since this man has not been your friend, like you can't maybe give him a chance that he's changed, because like I think I agree with like the idea that I would not say that Jax would never cheat on Brittany again. I
Right.
do still think Jax is an asshole, but I do think he's a lot different
Mhm.
than he was before.
Mhm.
I think like from what I've seen, I feel like he does, even though I know Brittany says that like she deserves more from him, he does seem to really care about Brittany. He does seem to be a good dad and really care about his family and like the friendships he's fostered now. Do I think that makes him a great person? Am I team Jax? No. But like the idea that Tom is like, I can't ever, I will never speak to Jax
Yeah.
again because he's an asshole and he talks shit about me because I cheated on my partner. But I am different now.
But it's the same thing he does with James, with
Yeah.
Lala, that no one's everyone says you're not taking accountability, or
Right.
it's the way you're moving since
Right.
this. And he's like, I don't know what I've done. Like I've said, I'm sorry. Like he thinks he's been moving fine since this,
Right.
and like that he is like proving himself to be sorry and to be remorseful. And yet 10 years later, James is still the guy that fucked Kristen with Tom's
Right.
condoms. Lala is still the girl that fucked a married man. Jax
Mhm.
is still the liar, cheater, whatever. And Katie is still all the things Katie is. And it's like, that's, but like, frankly, not to beat a dead horse, that's what narcissists do.
Right.
Surprise,
Like,
surprise.
yeah. Like he can't let it be about him
Yeah,
because it has to be someone else's
yeah,
fault.
yeah. So watching the pool party and Tom talking to girls was painfully cringy. And I think a good reminder that Tom will make himself look bad all on his own.
It also like felt like such a glimpse into seeing how he must have flirted with Rachel. And like my first thought honestly was like this is also an insight into just how stupid this girl is that she fell for it. But like I can't even wrap my brain around that. Like, girl, how did that work?
Yeah.
That
She did
ugly ass
talk
man.
about, yeah, she did talk about it on her podcast. She said, I was watching it and I was thinking, oh my God, the audacity of him having these girls over at his house where he lives with Ariana. And then I thought, I was that girl. And she didn't say this, but I thought, and he was still dating Ariana.
Right. There's a difference.
So, but I
It
mean,
what cracked
that's
me
some
up
self awareness. That's
what cracked
fine.
me up was him being like, "My ex is my roommate," and they were
I
like,
feed her
"Oh,
chips under the
weird."
door.
Yeah. What the fuck? But they were like, "Oh, that's kind of weird." And I was like, "These girls don't know?"
Yeah. Ariana kind of talked about that part on the after show too, and she was like, my thing is that like everyone acts like he's been nothing but good to me since this. And she was like, even that conversation that he was having in the pool with those girls was disrespectful. But
Mhm.
because Tom is such an awful human being, our level of like decency is so low that we're like, well, it wasn't as bad as it could have been for Tom. And she was like, but that was a disrespectful conversation. And no one is able to just say that because he's already such an indecent human.
Mhm.
Which is like true, like him making jokes like I crush up chips, and like if you heard your ex saying that about you in your own fucking house, like you'd be like, what the fuck? But because it's Tom,
I
we're
would be
like,
like, "What the fuck?" Because I just genuinely don't understand.
it's
Like, what the
stupid.
fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
I crush up chips for her. What the hell?
yeah. It is also becoming more and more clear that Schwartz's vehement denial of any relationship or possibility of a relationship with Joe is starting to hurt her feelings,
Mhm.
and that she might not be on the same page as him.
Yeah, Allie, like, I think Allie really thought she was being helpful because she looked like so like happy. Like she was like, I can really see like why y'all are just friends. It's like
Yeah,
so great that y'all are just friends. And
yeah,
I was like, Allie, you have to read the room because this girl looks heartbroken
yeah,
every time you say that. But she was just like, she's like,
yeah.
I just like this like so makes me so happy for y'all.
But then Allie like shifts gears and she's like, not that you can't end up together. Like, I know a lot of couples that their charts are like friend charts. But a lot of people online interpret this as Allie being a very good businesswoman. That so far her readings to Sheena, to Joe, have been kind of telling people what they want to hear about themselves, and they think that is savvy. They
Mhm.
think even agreeing to do a reading with Joe, who is like not really a part of Allie's friend group and like not super relevant on the show, is just like kind of a way for Allie to get exposure for her astrology business. Uh,
Mhm.
and then of course Allie has come out with a single, so get that bag, girl.
Girls, girl.
We, yeah, with Sheena. Come on now.
Mhm.
I was reading an article about this episode, and they were like, "What did Sheena do?" Oh, when Sheena was talking to Tom at the bar and like telling him he should apologize to Katie, the article writer was like, "And Sheena has proven everyone wrong that she actually is a girl's girl." And I was like,
No,
again,
she
the
wants
bar for decency is very
right.
low.
She wants Tom to apologize to Katie so that people will be less judgmental of her when she becomes friends
Being
with
friends
him.
with Tom. It's all about the men. Come on now, don't be fooled.
Mhm.
So we got our first couple times seeing Tom and Ariana in the same room. First, the audacity. She's having a game night in. I don't even know who to be mad at
It
though.
kind
She's
of did
having
crack
a
me up.
game
He's like,
night.
"He better fucking leave right now." I was like, "He is leaving." Like, he's literally
Yeah,
walking to the door.
but fuck Schwartz for doing that. So she's having a game
Yeah.
night downstairs with her friends, where it seems her and Tom have like agreed when they're coming downstairs to just exit. But
Mhm.
Schwartz has to come in and say hi to everybody. And Tom Sandoval thinks for some reason that he should come with him. So they're like telling everyone goodbye, and it's so terribly awkward. uh Ariana's like, "Go now, please." But then at the end of the episode, Ariana shocks everyone by coming to an event at a bar that she knew Sandoval would be at. And my question is, do we agree with Lala's take that Ariana went because she wanted to reclaim her friend group?
I do agree with that. I eat and like honestly, I have felt a little bit like that's what Ariana meant when she said like that she wasn't going to let him stop her from hanging out with her friends. Like almost like and I think that I don't think she's incorrect in feeling this way, but that like she has more of a right to those friends
Hmm.
than he does because she didn't do anything wrong to them.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna let my friends like hang out with him just because I don't want to be around him because they're my friends. And I also
Hmm.
felt like it worked because we see like and this is like again where I'm saying Kyle Chan is really I feel like just Sandoval's friends, but we see him talking to Ariana at one
Hmm.
point and then Schwartz asked Sandoval to move away from him. I felt like it was kind of working. Like people were
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit, if Ariana's here, I don't want to be with seen with
Hmm.
Sandoval."
Yeah. Yeah. I feel a little bit too like this narrative that like she won't budge at all on her
Mhm.
boundaries is like proving to not be true. Like
Yeah.
she not like flipping over and being like, "Yeah, I'll hang out with him," but she's
Right.
able to say like, "Okay, fine. I'm making it terribly awkward for all of my friends to have to choose, and I'm having to not go to events and all this stuff. So like, I'm
Mhm.
just gonna go. I'm gonna stick
Yeah.
with my boundary that I don't want to talk to him, but like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and I'll associate with people who are willing to associate with him, and it's fine." So I think she has been flexible enough. Cut to a scene with Tom Sandoval and Katie where he asks her to give
It's-
him some grace.
Ariana says, "Will you be okay?" And she's like, "Yeah." She was not okay.
She was great, actually. She was the only one that should have been trusted to handle that situation.
That's
Um,
true.
so he apologizes to her for the way that he acted during her divorce. Uh, and can she give him some grace? She says no, she will not give him any grace. Thank God. Again, like kind of like I was just saying about Ariana, on a show like this, I think that people think Katie is quote on a warpath or that she's like taking things too far and like being stubborn. But kind of like we said a minute ago, this person adds nothing to her life. And for
Right.
10 years has been rude to her, has shown her exactly who he is. He has cheated on her friend Kristen. He has cheated on her friend Ariana. He has been awful to her. So, like, why
He
does
has been
she
present when her
care?
husband cheated on her.
Yes, like, it's not like a stubborn thing to give him grace. It is an indifference. Like, she
Right.
does not need to care about this person, so she does not need. She wasn't waiting with bated breath for that apology.
Right.
She
And
was
like
unaffected.
he has by far historically been the meanest, the most ruthless with Katie, like
Hmm.
for no fucking reason. He hates Katie and he just can't let that go. So like it also a little bit to me feels like why are you apologizing now?
Yeah,
Like he hasn't done
because he
anything
wants Sheena.
recently. Right. He hasn't done anything recently particularly mean to her because she didn't have to put up with his shit anymore. She divorced his
Hmm.
best friend and he cheated on hers. So she's
Hmm.
pieced out of his life. So it's
Yeah,
silly that you're
yeah.
coming to him now or coming to her now and apologizing when like where was the apology for saying that she battered her husband? Where's the apology for literally every fucking thing he's ever said to her that has just been so mean for no reason? And like,
Hmm.
so who gives a fuck if you're sorry?
Yeah. All right. How did you feel about the Valley?
I I liked it. I feel like it was a pretty typical first episode. But I do feel like I was bought in based on the people I recognized because like I think it's cool that we have people from Vanderpump Rules, but we also have somebody from The Bachelor and somebody from iCarly and Hannah Montana. Because
Hmm.
I saw like I went on Peacock and like the picture for the Valley, it's like of Jax, Danny, and Jason just like talking, and I was like this short guy in the middle, like I was like, where do I know him from? Like, I was
Hmm.
like, this is like an actor, I think. And so I like looked up like the cast and I found his name. And then I like looked at his like movies and TV
IMDb.
shows. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And he yeah, he was in an episode of iCarly that we watched a lot
Yeah.
as children. Um so
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, I wasn't like blown away, but yeah, I think it takes time with new cast
Yeah.
members. And I think the season trailer looks really good. So like just to see those things happen, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll stay.
Promising.
Just some quick breakdowns, I guess. Michelle
Hmm.
and Jesse, that is rough. She admits that she does 98% of everything at home and with the kids, that Jesse never once woke up with their baby. In the first episode, they're already talking about a separation. Also, super awkward when Jesse called Lala his mistress and then said to be like more appropriate, he would call her his side piece, all in front of his wife.
Yeah, I truly I cannot imagine what would possess someone to agree to do this show knowing that they are in a marriage like this. Like it just like I would feel very uncomfortable
Yeah.
putting my life out there knowing that it is ripe for judgment.
Yeah. Sounds like Kristen and Luke are trying to get pregnant while also still technically being long distance.
Yeah, I think like when they said they were trying to get pregnant, I was like, oh, cute. And then I didn't realize they lived in two different states. So I was like, okay, at this point, like, I don't care about Jax's opinion, but like, is it a good idea to try to have a baby when you're living in two different states? But it also sounds like Luke is like willing to, or is like preparing to move to
Yeah.
California.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that like if there was a concern to have, then that's definitely the one. I also just like frankly don't care because I think we're
Hmm.
past like needing parenting to be like perfectly conventional. And Jackson's like, well, you're going to have a baby out of wedlock. Anything could happen. And it's like, baby, the irony that you're about to get a divorce. Anything can happen anytime, like whether they're married or not. But when he asks Luke, but does she want to get pregnant for the right reasons? Even if literally the only reason she wants to get pregnant is that she is 40 and she feels like she's running out of time, that is a perfectly fine reason. Like, fuck
Yeah.
off. Who fucking cares? Danny and Nia. Really, the most interesting thing about them was when Nia started crying when Jax pantsed her husband when he was only wearing swim trunks.
Yeah. I don't think I would have cried, but also she's like 2 months postpartum,
Yeah,
so
maybe
fair.
like 4 weeks, even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I would also have been mortified based on the amount of children present.
and he just kept saying like, "How is I supposed to know he doesn't wear underwear? He's wearing swim trunks. He was
Also
wearing swim trunks." Mm,
also you're 45 fucking years old. Stop
don't.
pantsing people.
Yeah. Mm.
I have never felt an urge to pants anyone ever in my life.
I do have an intrusive thought to pants my husband a lot, but I don't do it in public or at
Yeah.
all, but especially in public. Yeah, it's called self-control, Jaxie.
Hmm.
Jasmine and Zach, we didn't get much of, but it seems that they're gonna be what Lala and James were. They're like comedic relief. Um, they present as single on the show, so
Yeah, I do think they're funny together, which is great. But I kind of wonder why Jasmine was like put into that role because she is like one of the only two that's not in a couple on the show, even though she has a serious girlfriend who she has like as of recently in news media been saying she wants to start a family with. So like
mhm,
why is she not in a couple? And like I don't know if it's because like her girlfriend doesn't want to be on the show,
mhm, yeah,
um, or what. But I did find that interesting that like Jasmine is in like a long term relationship that is like going in the same direction it seems as like Kristen and Luke are. So like
Luke,
why is she not also gonna be a couple? But
yeah,
I think it'll be fun.
hmm
All right.
it's time.
All the all the sweet stuff out of the way. So I have not been able to stop thinking about Quiet on Set since I watched it, and I feel like it does fit like perfectly into the idea of like popular culture. It's very it's trending right now. It's involving famous people. So I wanted to do kind of like a deep dive in it and kind of talk about things that aren't even like on it but that are relevant. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, a four-part docu-series aired this week on Max about the horrors of kids who worked at Nickelodeon in the late 90s and early 2000s. It's called Quiet on Set: The Dark Side of Kids TV. Um, so I I want to hit the highlights because I do want to talk about this on the show. I have a lot of thoughts and I love to talk them out. But also I like truly cannot recommend the series enough. It was so captivating. It was so well made. I was reading an article today about it and where one of the creators said that like they played it back for Drake Bell and he said like this really feels like exactly how I want my story to be told and exactly how it happened and how it felt at the time. And so like I feel like they did such a good job of like capturing their stories and it was just wonderful. I would love to give you every single scenario in detail, but I also want everyone to watch it. So I'll hit the big marks and then you can go watch it yourself to find out all of the nitty-gritty. Um but I'm going to start with like the smaller offenses of like hostile work environment and then work our way up to illegal activity. So,
Okay.
Starting out, Leon Frierson, Brian Hearn, and Raquel Lee of All That. Leon and Brian were on All That, and Raquel was on the Amanda Show. They talked about how they like clearly felt like there was favoritism for the white actors on the part of Dan Schneider, at least, that they were given maybe more screen time. They were she like Raquel pointed out that like Dan spent a lot of spare time with Drake and Amanda just like laughing and hanging out, and like she did not experience that. And then within like a year she was not asked to be back on the show, but then like Drake Bell was given his own show, and it just felt like there was a lot of favoritism. And so um Brian's mom also specifically spoke about how different his roles were from the white kids roles. He played a cookie dealer, a rapper, just roles that she felt were very stereotyping. And then they also talked about how just in general there was a lot of breaking of child labor laws, being asked to stay late, being asked to do things apart from their parents as underage actors. And then Brian's mom said like she complained about it because like it's illegal. And
Mhm.
also she was complaining about like why is my son being made to look like a drug dealer? Like he's supposed to be here because he's funny. So
And
why is
he's
he
like
pretending to be a drug dealer?
11.
Right. And basically she was advised to be quiet by people on the set, by Brian's manager or agent, and eventually Brian was not asked back onto the show, and they said that it was pretty obvious that it was because his mom had pushed back too much. um,
Mhm.
but also when hearing like Raquel's story as well, it seemed like black actors were not asked to stay on these shows as long as the white actors were.
Mhm.
They just their um contracts did seem to be cut shorter.
Because they're replaceable
Yeah,
by other
because
black actors.
they're right, they're a token. So
Mhm.
like they don't just need one. Doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
Um Then we hear from Chrissy Stratton and Jenny Gilgan, who were hired as writers for the Amanda Show. And they claimed that even from the time they were hired, like specifically, like as they were getting hired, Dan Schneider told them that he was shocked that they were like the top of the list as far as their writing went, and that it was so good because women simply are not funny.
Mhm.
A fact.
Mhm.
And then each of them was paid half of a full salary. So
Yeah.
there was a full salary made for this writer's position, and they were given half of it
Yeah.
each.
It sounds like crazy that anyone would accept that, but like they explained the way that it was essentially described to
Mhm.
them as like you're being hired as a team, and so you're splitting the salary because
Right.
you're working together. And I think like you can explain things away a lot
Mhm.
in, especially in a world where like you have to start from the bottom, you know. But of course the men were not asked to work in teams, so.
Right. And like so I think that like you could like say like okay, like that's just what I'm getting paid
Hmm.
because like I'm not doing it all by myself, but then the men are getting paid a full salary. And so like
Double
you
what you're
can't even
making.
like pretend,
Hmm.
and they're like the head writers,
Hmm.
and so you can't even pretend that it's like justifiable at that point and that you're not giving them half of a salary because you're paying people who are lower on the writing totem pole twice as much as them.
Hmm.
They, along with various female editors and wardrobe staff, allege that Dan Schneider would almost daily beckon a female staff member to provide massages to him on set, um, taking them away from their work to massage him.
Which to someone who like doesn't find women's work meaningful, he probably does just think like that's part of their job.
Yeah. And I mean, like, And they talked about how, like, they didn't feel like they could say no to him because
Mhm.
he demanded it every day, and, like, he was very mean.
Mhm.
Um, and he was like they say multiple times, he's Nickelodeon's golden boy, like, you can't piss him off. And so, like, for them, it's like a, well, we have to do this, like, we can't say no. But, like, for him, it probably he probably doesn't notice that he's taking them away from their work, because he's like, this is what they do for me. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter who it is. Somebody's got
Right.
to do it. Um, Unfortunately, this behavior trickled down to the child actresses on set as they became the target of inappropriate or suggestive scenes. Um, and this is the part where, like, I'm not going to get into every single scene, but several of the female actors discussed watching back their scenes to see how they had been filled with cum shots, sounds, and hand gestures that were meant to mimic sex acts, provocative clothing, and a character intentionally named Penelope Taint, and imagery catered to pedophiles. Lots of videos of their feet pouring things into their mouths, a scene where girls are slapped in the face with sausages. And, like, me and my husband were talking about it, and we were talking about specifically the nose boy or
Mhm.
snot boy or whatever, where
Nose
he
boy.
said, like, he sneezed on somebody and, like, it was, like, clearly supposed to be a cum shot. And I was like telling
Yeah.
my husband, I was like, as a child, I do think I would have found somebody sneezing on somebody else to be funny.
Mhm.
I think that, like, that's silly, and I don't think that there's inherently something wrong with a scene where somebody sneezes on somebody else's face. But
Mhm.
then when you combine it with all these things, like Ariana Grande grunting and squeezing a potato, and a lot of other cum shots, and, like, all of these other things that are, like, made to be okay in these scenes.
Mhm.
And when it all starts piling up is when you're like, Jesus Christ, like, stop. Like, that's enough with the
Yeah.
cum shot. Um and when, like, Alexis Nicola said, like, the boys that she worked with knew they were cum shots. Like,
Yeah.
when the kids are starting to recognize what you're doing as you're doing it, it's time to pump the brakes.
And it's like so much more humiliating for the girls that their coworkers
Right.
are like, he, we're getting to do cum shots on you, and our
Right.
boss is in on it, and we're all in on it, but he,
Yeah.
you're like the victim of it.
Especially when you think about Jamie Lynn Spears, like, having to have been fired because she was pregnant. Obviously, Zoe 101 can't be pregnant. So, like,
Sure.
understandable that she couldn't be on the show anymore. But, like, when you think about the fact that she was fired from Nickelodeon because she got pregnant at 16, but, like,
Yeah.
you're, like, catering to pedophiles with her imagery.
Yeah.
Um, Even the young, like, boys from the shows talked about feeling uncomfortable with some of their scenes, being made to wear leotards. One boy was almost naked, covered in peanut butter, and then they had dogs lick it off of him. Um, a character named Pickle Boy had the taglines, "His pickles stink. He loves to hurt and tease pickles."
And I honestly think the weirdest part about Pickle Boy, um,
Is that he's a
is
pickle man?
that he isn't a boy, right?
Right.
Like, I think I would have found that strange. Maybe not
Yeah.
thinking it was like sexual, but like
Yeah.
I would have watched that and been like, that is a man.
Yeah. And
That's
admittedly, like, all that was before our time. Like, we were
yes.
alive, but, like, we were not really old enough to be interested in
I was
a show
a
like all that.
little fetus, if you will.
Right. Like, we were both like, that's kind like, it's so funny though. Like, the like his
It could
head.
have been a white kid, but it's
Yeah.
funny.
I was like, his giant ass head. I was like, I, like, feel bad for him that he had to wear the unitard, and, like, pretend to be naked and a fetus, but like
Yeah.
that was funny. But uh yeah, like it would have gone over our heads. And like, but I do remember watching the Amanda Show and kind of like the tail end of it, I think,
Hmm.
is more of what I watched. And probably a lot of reruns.
I
Um
loved the Amanda Show.
I love the Amanda Show too. Um so they also talk about Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. And I know you've read the book, I haven't. But there's a character she refers to as the creator in the book who is likely Dan Schneider. I don't know who the fuck else it would be.
He is almost
In
certainly Dan Schneider.
in 2013, Jeanette famously posted a Vine in which she was wearing makeup that had been smeared all over her face and teeth. She had on tattered clothes and her hair was like in a nest. And in the video, she says, "Hey, Dan Schneider, I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Look what you've done to me." And if you've seen that Vine, it's like kind of disturbing because like it's it like it's not like Amanda Bynes where like Jeanette McCurdy was like in this tailspin of like
Mhm.
crazy behavior. Like it was like she posted this one Vine and then nothing else really weird happened with her. But
Yeah.
she does seem like disturbed in the
Yeah.
video.
Yeah. Yeah. The stuff about the creator is pretty rough. I think um, he made her drink alcohol when she was underage on set. And like, I don't know when, but like on iCarly, she was like fucking 12. So
Yeah.
not just like underage, like 17. Um, but I thought this is interesting. It's not really related to anyone in the documentary, but in I'm Glad My Mom Died, she also wrote about a boyfriend that she had from the show, like from iCarly or Sam and Cat or whatever. And she said that he was a script writer or script manager. And the way she describes it, like they were forming a relationship before she was 18. And essentially, like he was just like, we can't be together because you're under 18, but they were like flirting and they were like talking about the fact that they like would date. And when she was 19, they started dating and he was 32. And they dated for quite a while. So,
Yeah. There was something else I was gonna say. Oh, there's they show a clip where like Jeanette McCurdy is like sitting in like a chair on the iCarly set and Dan Schneider comes up and like
yes.
scares her and she screams
Hmm.
so loud and it like clearly freaks her out. But then I've seen another video going around on TikTok um where they're all just kind of like sitting around talking and he says something to her and she looks like really uncomfortable and then Jerry Trainer is like, "Dan, let us go home, it's late," in the video. And he's like, "No." And they like somebody pointed out that there's maybe like another part of the video or other videos where it seems like Jerry Trainer kind of like puts himself between Dan Schneider and Jeanette McCurdy, or like in some way tries to like stand up for Jeanette McCurdy and the other kids because Jerry Trainer is an adult. And
Hmm.
like, but that in this video, he's like, "Let us go home, Dan. It's late.
Yeah.
Like they're kids. They're tired." And he's like, "No." Um.
Yeah. And like, even in Quiet on Set, there was like that clip where Dan Schneider says, um,
Mhm.
I think it's so funny when the kids get sassy with me because I can make them do stuff they don't want to do and make them do whatever I
Mhm.
want. So
Yeah. There's also a scene on a red carpet where him and Jerry Trainer are kind of like it seems like they're joking with each other, but kind of like giving each other shit. And I'm like, I wonder if Jerry Trainer like really didn't fucking like him.
yeah.
Um, but so around the time that um Jeanette McCurdy's Vine came out, I guess, or maybe before then. Dan was asked by Nickelodeon not to have any more interactions with the actors. He claims this is not true,
Mhm.
but it's definitely true. And then because an investigation was launched basically
Yeah.
to see if he was treating them poorly, and the conclusion was like, well, we'll just keep him away from them. Then in 2018, a secondary investigation was launched into his behavior after he was reported to a union rep. Um, and the woman who reported him was on the docuseries but not named or shown, and she said that her union rep called her back and said that he had been officially removed from Nickelodeon.
Mhm. I also thought worth mentioning is that in Jeanette McCurdy's book, she talked about when Sam and Cat was canceled, she was offered $300,000 as a thank you gift, but only if she agreed to not talk about her experiences on Nickelodeon. Uh, if you couldn't guess, she did not take the money, because
Right.
she still talks about her experiences. But
Yeah.
yeah, she said, "Sounds like hush money to me."
Mhm. If all that's not bad enough, we're gonna get into the big stuff. I think it's like pretty clear um that I would say Dan Schneider has at least pedophilic tendencies.
Mhm.
A lot of making people show them his feet.
Mhm.
There are this was not addressed on the show, and the creators of the show said that if Max asked them to make more episodes, they would look more into everything and do more. But there are allegations against Dan Schneider that were not mentioned. One is that he's the father of Jamie Lynn Spears' baby. Oh,
Oh
it gets
my god.
worse. There's another theory that he impregnated Amanda Bynes when she was 13 and then paid for her to get an abortion. And then there's this one. I when this is like when I first started getting into like Dan Schneider lore, I guess, years ago, is the allegations about his relationship with the girl who played Quinn in Zoe
Mhm.
101. The pictures of them seems like something maybe deeper was going on between them.
Mhm.
Very similar to the pictures of him and Amanda Bynes, to be honest.
Yeah.
But so there are like specific allegations against Dan Schneider having inappropriate relationships with these actors, but it was not mentioned on the series and has not been proven. So it's not something I want to say like I wish they had mentioned this, because like the people that they did mention are people who went to jail for crimes against children that they proved they committed. So I do want to throw out that there are accusations about Dan Schneider, but that like nothing is proven.
Okay.
So I'm surprised you didn't know about the Jamie Lynn Spears rumor.
Mm.
People think that her daughter, her oldest daughter, looks like Dan Schneider. What a mean
I
thing to say about a little girl.
Yeah. I had seen a few things today that I skimmed over that had Amanda Bynes and abortion in the same
Hmm.
sentence. I didn't
Well,
read it, but
so that one, I'm not going to say whether or not I believe it, but there's there was a, I don't know if you remember this, around the time that people were like, "Oh, Amanda Bynes is crazy. She's lost her mind," you know. Um
here on the
there
Housewife
was
did even say she is unwell.
right, like when she
Weird,
was
weird kind.
right. But it you know
Yes.
like the time period I'm talking about.
Yes.
So there was a Twitter account that people had figured out was Amanda Bynes,
Mm.
but it was not under her name. Okay, do you
Mhm.
remember this?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I mean, I
I
remember the time period. I don't remember a Twitter.
so this was like around the same time. But so on that Twitter, many things were posted about Dan Schneider.
Okay.
including that piece of information.
Ah,
Um, and so people, there
she
is
was
no
blah,
definitive
but
proof.
for herself.
Yeah, there was no definitive proof that that was Amanda Bynes's Twitter account.
Okay.
But people really genuinely believe it was for whatever reason. And that that was her way of like telling her story
We're trying to get
without it
people to
being
look
like
into
attached to
it or
anything. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so
Did you see probably apparently you fucking know everything. Well, since you know every fucking thing, um I did you see that like apparently he used to run like the Sam and Cat Twitter and that at one point the Sam and Cat Twitter had like asked people to like send feet pics to
yes.
them? Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, it was like unintentional too.
Yeah.
He
No,
had
I know.
he asked people to send pictures or videos of their feet with it with Sam and Cat like written on
Yeah.
their feet.
Oh,
And then he put them on TV.
that's what I was thinking. Were they like for like the slap or like
Yes.
okay,
But like it was like one of like yeah, one of those segments.
okay,
So now we're gonna get into the big stuff. They mentioned on the show that Nickelodeon had three men working on various Nickelodeon shows in the time frame we're talking about who are now convicted child sex offenders. So I'm gonna tell you about them. Um, Jason Handy.
that
Why the fuck are these
that
their last names? Why the fuck are these their last names? Was a PA on all that. He was known for being extremely kind and generous with the kids. He ran a Bible study with them. And then we hear from one mom who her daughter was an extra on all that. But this mom, it had always been her dream to be an actress. So she was like trying to get her up and up and up. She reported that she had allowed her daughter to exchange email addresses with Jason because she thought it would help her get more opportunities on the show, like just to know someone. Um, and one day he sent a photo of himself masturbating to her daughter Brandy and said it was to let her know he was thinking of her. She said that they did not report this to police because she didn't want the police to think she was a bad mom for allowing him to email her daughter in the first place. But later, the police called Brandy's mom to let her know that Jason Handy had been arrested for having copious amounts of child pornography. I think he had molested someone at this point, and that's why they were searching his home. Or
yeah,
that some
an
he had been
accusation.
reported for one of these things. Yeah. They
Yeah,
found child pornography, they found diary entries about wanting to rape little girls and bags with girls' names on them with tokens inside. There were bags with underwear. Brandy, the reason they called Brandy's mom is because there was a bag with her name on it, and inside were printed emails or letters from her from their exchanges. So thank God that's all that was in her bag. But there were also bags with like underwear and things.
Jason Handy only got 6 years in prison for this. So like, I guess to note that it was like 1,700 images and like 200, like it was like
Hmm.
copious amounts of things. He got 6 years in prison. But surprise, surprise, he reoffended when he got out.
Right.
So he
He
is
literally wrote
now,
in a journal entry that he could not stop himself, that he wanted to
yeah,
rape a little girl. And they're like, wait, he did it again.
yeah. So he is now in prison, great, until 2038. So
Hopefully he
good
dies
for now. Yeah.
before then. So the the biggest part of the show. Brian Peck, who they do not specify is not related to Josh Peck, but I would like
But
to specify is not related to Josh Peck. He was a dialogue coach on all that in the Amanda show. He was hoping to eventually work on Drake and Josh, and he played Pickle Boy that I mentioned earlier. He was known for throwing parties at his house, and he had a lot of Hollywood memorabilia. So the kids really liked going to his house because it was cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
Great.
That memorabilia, not
Hmm.
that cool.
So Giovanni Samuels, who I remember from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, not all that good for her, moving
Mm,
away to Disney Channel.
yeah. Which
Um,
apparently, like, we've heard nothing. So feeling like,
well,
oh, never mind.
no, well, so we haven't heard anything specific, but um, I don't remember her name right now. The girl who plays Chelsea from That's a Raven, who
Mm,
she was inspired from Raven's Home. She posted a TikTok. It was like the things I could say about all of what happened at Disney Channel, and people are like kind of pissed at her for it. Like, you're piggybacking off of this Nickelodeon stuff, but you're also not telling us what it is that's your big
mhm.
secret. But that's all I've heard. So Giovanni and Kyle Sullivan, who was on All That, reported that Brian Peck did at times do things that made them uncomfortable. He had Giovanni walk on his back to crack it, which brings up so many memories for me as a child, but with people who I was familiar with,
Yeah, our family.
our
And
family members.
it only ever happened in front of family.
Right. It was
Um,
normal. If
yeah.
a stranger had asked me to do it,
If your
I would have been freaked out.
coworker or boss,
Right.
yeah, no.
And then Kyle says that the first time he went to Brian Peck's house for a party and they were looking at his Hollywood memorabilia, he showed Kyle a signed self portrait that had been sent to him by his friend, John Wayne Gacy.
And then he just casually pulls out piles of letters that he has exchanged with his pen pal, John Wayne Gacy,
And then he invites
to
everyone
show
at the
to the
party
parents.
to come look. He's like, look, everyone, look at this amazing stuff I
No.
have. That's a no, you keep that to yourself.
Yeah.
Keep that to yourself, friend. Um, then we learn so Giovanni and Kyle are talking about him, and then they talk about how their parents were asked to leave the room so that some people could tell them that Brian had been fired because Brian had been arrested for child sexual abuse of someone that they said was a child actor. The charges included sodomy, oral copulation, creation of pornography, assault with a foreign object, just like everything. And when the person that it happened to speaks about it, he pretty much like refuses to say what happened to him. He says like, just imagine the worst thing you could think of happening to a kid like that happened to me. It's like he obviously doesn't want to talk about it, but they did show what the charges were, so like we do know what happened to him. Um,
Generally.
huh?
Generally.
Yeah. Since 2003 when this happened, the child's identity had remained sealed, but in this show, they speak out for the first time and we learn that it is Drake Bell. The creator said they asked them like, how did you ask him to do that the show when the court records were sealed? And he kind of said that he felt like it was obvious it was him because of the time he spent with Brian Peck. So they said that like basically that they like started asking around about it, and people said we're pretty sure it was Drake Bell, and so they asked him and he said it was him. Um so Drake had been allowed to sleep over at Brian's house several times when he was 15 years old. He says it was because he lived in Orange County and Brian lived really close to Nickelodeon on Sunset where he was working. And so he would spend the night with him and go to work with him. And he was being abused by him for a while before Drake's girlfriend's mom kind of pieced together what was happening. And Drake finally told his mom what was happening.
Like, Brian Peck wasn't even like trying to be subtle. Like when you're
Mm-mm.
calling, he was calling the girlfriend's
Obsessively.
home phone
Mhm.
incessantly, and it's
Yeah.
like, why like I just can't imagine like you're committing crimes
Yeah.
like that, and you aren't even just like they're not going to find out what I
Yeah.
did, but I, as a 40-year-old man, shouldn't be calling a 15-year-old like that. Like,
Right.
just that's so strange to me.
Right.
Like calling his cell phone a bunch of times, yeah, whatever. But like, why would you start
Right.
calling
Well,
strangers?
and people pointed out, like, especially in 2003, um, who Drake's girlfriend had to have been at the time, somebody that Brian Peck would have had access to their contact information
Or he found it in the
because
yellow pages.
yeah. But there are some theories of who the girlfriend was. Some people think it's Vanessa Hudgens, but other people say that they dated in 2006, which was after the fact. And then the current, like, most popular theory, I don't remember her last name. Her first name is Fifi, and she's a Canadian singer. Um, but I like shout
But they
out to
were
that
also
whole
hanging
family.
out so much. Like Brian Peck was at his concerts. Like he
Yeah,
could have just met Drake's girlfriend.
yeah,
Um, eh, yeah, I mean, getting her phone number seems different,
yeah.
but yeah.
It was also like, again, like, not to get into like absolutely everything, but Brian Peck had like isolated Drake from his father, who knew something like this could happen. He like pegged it from the start. I would love to hear Leonardo DiCaprio say, like, if he also felt uncomfortable with Brian Peck, if he's like, oh my gosh, like, I had no fucking idea. Because like Drake Bell's dad could see in the way he interacted with him and other people that there was something off. The heartbreak I felt when his dad said, "Thank God it wasn't you."
Mhm.
And then I said to my husband, like, I would never want to like shame his mom for like putting him in the situation, but how do you let it get to the point where this man is arrested and his dad doesn't know what happened? Like, as a parent, out of respect for the other parent of your child, how have you not told him?
Mhm.
I did that part I don't understand. Um, yeah, it was his dad broke my heart. Anyway, so he told his mom. It actually was a while between when his girlfriend's mom kind of pieced it together, and then when he told his mom, and he told her over the phone. And so they get to the point where Brian Peck is tried for his crimes. Drake said his side of the courtroom was him, his brother, and his dad or his mom. I, does his dad know yet? I don't think he does. But on Brian Peck's side, there was a courtroom full of supporters and 41 letters written on his behalf, including one from James Marsden, Ryder Strong, and Will Friedle, from Boy Meets World. Also, Taryn Killam, who is an on SNL or was on SNL. I will say, Taryn Killam was 19 at the time.
And he's
19
in
year
a
olds,
lot of the pictures from the set.
yes. 19-year-olds are adults, but I want to give him like a little more grace, I feel like, than James Marsden and Ryder Strong and Will Friedle, who were full grown adults.
Mm.
Um, but Brian Peck was sentenced to 16 months in prison, and when he was released, he was actually hired by Disney Channel for 3 days. He worked on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody for 3 days, and then they got his background check back, and they fired him. Um, this segment brought up a lot of questions about Drake Bell and his scandal with an underage girl a few years back when he was arrested and given probation for inappropriately messaging a 15-year-old. So, she claims that he had been grooming her since they were introduced by her aunt, that she went to several of his shows, and that after a couple of his shows, he sexually assaulted her. She also says that they exchanged nude photos, and that is when she cut off contact with him. Drake Bell has maintained since the time this happened that those things are completely untrue. That she had gone to several of his shows, but he did not like know her or
That
know that she was
know
there.
he didn't know that she was the person he was talking to
Right.
online.
Like he was like, fans come to my shows, she went to my shows, like that's normal. Um, and that she reached out online and he responded. I'm guessing that there was some, for a married person, inappropriate messaging,
Mhm.
but he says he did not know she was 15. And that when
Yeah,
he found out she was underage, he stopped messaging her.
yeah. The records
Um,
say, like, the messages became somewhat sexual in nature.
yeah. Um, so he also pointed out at the time that this was happening that if what she said had happened, he would be facing more than 2 years probation, which I think, in light of what we know now about Drake Bell's history with child sexual abuse, I feel like he probably would know that that's
Mhm.
true. Um, but now people are on the fence. There are people who just think that this girl is straight up lying, that what Drake's Bell's story is correct. There are people who say like, no, she's probably telling the truth, but he only did that because of his past, and then and so like it like makes sense now, and like we can't blame him. But then there are also people who are like, no, she's telling the truth and there's no excuse, he's still a bad person. I will say, when he was like arrested, they did do a thorough search for any trace of these nude images, any like indication that they had physical contact, and nothing was found. And that's not what he was arrested for.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not usually one to believe men
Mhm.
um when they're not the ones in the that are victims, but I do think it's fair to point out that there is no evidence that he touched this girl or exchanged child pornography with her. And I would think the police would be able to find that
Mhm.
in some way. Um, so that's my opinion.
Mhm.
I really don't have one, I guess, actually. I
Yeah.
don't know what I think, but I think that we can look at this separately also.
Yeah.
Um, so the third person, they show a picture of him, but they actually never mention him. But his name is Ezel Channel, and he was an animator for Nickelodeon. He was sentenced to 7 years and 4 months in prison in 2005 for committing lewd acts on children under the age of 14 and showing them pornography in his workspace. It was a boy. There were two boys. One was 13 and one was 14.
They did
Um,
mention him briefly at the very end and just said that, like, he brought minors to the Nickelodeon parking lot and
mhm,
assaulted them, and, like,
yeah.
that's all.
And then another. My husband has not stopped talking about this person, so I have to
Mhm.
give it to y'all. Another person who was not mentioned but was shown, this clip was shown, was Justin Smith. He was a freelance editor for Nickelodeon, and the clip that they showed was him being caught on To Catch a Predator. Which, if you don't know, the premise of To Catch a Predator is that they pretend to be a child and they lure a predator somewhere. So basically, like, didn't technically do anything illegal because it wasn't a real child, but he believed that he was grooming and was going to meet up with a 13-year-old girl named Carly. And then he got there and it was the To Catch a Predator people. Um, so he
Interesting.
can't be arrested for that.
Yeah.
But they can put it out in the universe that he tried.
Yep.
Um,
That would be entrapment.
honestly, when you look up, like, I was trying because I could not figure out who the third person was. I had to take like a screenshot of the picture of the three of um Jason Handy, Brian Peck, and then his L channel, and zoom in on his L channel and Google search his picture to figure out who he was. But so I was like Googling like Nickelodeon predators. Who is the third predator they mentioned in Nickelodeon? Who is the third pedophile they talked about in Quiet on Set? Like I was, and there were so many people coming up
Mhm.
that I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Um, so I I really do recommend it, but I
Mhm.
also recommend having something ready to watch afterwards because like not even like people are like the opening where they're like if you're a 90s kid this is going to fuck you up, like it doesn't have anything to do with that. It just is like it's just very painful to like hear these things, and like that some of these people can't be on this show because like they're not mentally well
Yeah.
anymore. Like Amanda Bynes is like not doing well,
Mhm.
and like it's just yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
um it's hard, it's a hard watch, but it's I
Worth.
few things have like compelled me and glued me to the TV the way that that show did. So very well done
Yep.
show. Thankful that it was made. Also Alexis Nicola, who played Nicole on Zoe 101, she was in it. She runs an organization that is like purely devoted to protesting places that like condone predatory behavior. She does a lot of protests on Nickelodeon grounds, and so she's done a lot of interviews about this in the past as well. She's super good source of information if you feel very strongly about this the way that I do. I would also recommend following her and kind of keeping up with things because she will update you.
Very nice.
Yes. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah. It was a different pop culture episode for us, but
Yeah.
it is what everyone's talking about. So,
Yeah. That's what we're here for.
yeah, that's true. Okay. Bye.
Bye.